to TLC, where we dive into the heart of our local community, its wineries, restaurants, business, and real estate. I'm your host, Troy Anderson, along with my co-host, Pamela. And we're here to bring you a new perspective on what's happening in our community. And this week we have a special guest, Eliu Lopez, the founder of HomeRight Lending, LLC. Welcome to the show, Eliu.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's a cool name. I like that name.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's unusual. We like unusual on this show.
I like it.
I like it. It's original. It's probably not original, but we're going to say it is.
I think it's pretty original.
Yeah, it's not one I've heard before.
I haven't heard it before, yeah.
Unique, original, I love it. Okay, all right, so before we dive into all things home lending, let's jump into Sipping on Success, where we open a bottle of wine and we taste it, we describe it, and we enjoy it. So, Troy, what do you have for us this week? That was quite the good pop you
got a
there.
good pop today.
I love it when I don't have to insert one in.
I know, yeah.
What you got for us?
Well, I thought I would start the year off right with Goose Ridge, one of my favorite places to go. Mm-hmm. And this is it's a GSM, but it's an MGSP. So it's Mourvedre, Grenache, Syrah, and Petite Syrah, which Petite Syrah is not done very often here in Washington. It's done really well in Napa, but it's a little bit stronger flavored grape, a little bit darker in color. So it's an interesting add to a GSM blend, I think. So
that was a lot of initials there.
I know.
I'm confused.
Makes two of us, but I've had GSM before.
So yeah, this is basically a GSM blend.
Okay.
But it's 36% Mourvedre.
That was easy for you to say. You're not even drunk yet.
I'm not even drunk yet, right?
Yeah.
31% Grenache, 28% Syrah, and then 5% Petite Syrah. So just a little smidgen.
Okay. All right. Well, cheers, everybody, before we have a taste and see. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right. They're going to dig in and have a little sample. I'm just going to kind of look at it. So color-wise, it's really light. It's got almost like a pinky hue to it.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bit brickier in color as well.
Mm-hmm. I always find that fascinating when there's almost like two-dimensional hues to a glass of wine, right? There's the color you see when you pour it from the bottle into the glass, and then when it sits for a second, it's almost like it changes hue just a little bit.
Yeah,
because I was seeing that pinky, and now as it's aerating, wrong word, I know.
No, it's the right word, I think.
But it starts to, have a little bit of that brick. So, okay, so Troy, you've tasted some. Have you had a chance to?
I did. This tastes great.
Yeah.
It's a very, I would say, like almost summery type of a drink.
Yeah, it's a little lighter, way approachable. You said, I think when we emailed you, you said you like Pinot Noirs. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of Washington wine producers make a Pinot, so I thought this is like one step up from a Pinot as far as.
So I'm obviously having a good old kind of put my nose in there, pretend like I'm a sommelier or a wine expert.
Yeah.
I'm kind of getting some floral notes from this one, and I don't normally, smell any of that kind of thing in a wine. That was really terrible English, but we'll be forgiven. So what are you getting from the notes on this one? It doesn't have that really strong kind of alcoholic punch.
No.
When you, I mean, it has a slight bit in the back of the throat when you take a deep kind of in breath. Mm-hmm. But I'm getting some floral notes. Is anybody else getting that, or am I just hallucinating?
Like anise, is that?
I don't know.
A little bit, yeah. Maybe pomegranate's what I'm getting.
I don't know. I haven't tasted it yet, but just kind of when I'm smelling it. What about you? What are you?
Yeah, I can kind of smell a little bit of the flowery. I don't know about the taste. Yeah, I feel like it has more like a smoky, almost.
A little bit, yeah.
Huh. We're not doing a good job today.
No, sorry. But it's delicious. It's delicious,
it's
and it's
light. It doesn't have a really kind of thick flavor, kind of consistency on the tongue.
Right.
It's kind of light on the tip of the tongue. I get what you're saying about a little bit of smokiness, but there's definitely some of those kind of sharp flavors in there. Maybe it is the pomegranate.
The pomegranate, yeah, little tart.
Yeah, those little kind of bursts of of juice on the tongue. Yeah, interesting. Well, I would say that was another great one from Goose Ridge.
Yeah, it's their artist series, and this is an artist is Mark Boyle. And he's got a picture of the red sky on the front, which just looks like it's on the coast.
Okay, cool.
It's a good little picture.
Now, other than we knew what our guests like to drink, was there any other reason for picking this particular wine for today's show?
Well, I wanted something a little bit lighter. I don't know, you know.
Okay, well, I guess we've done a few.
And I like Goose Ridge.
So win-win all around then. It's all about what Troy wants.
I knew they'd have a GSM. So
Yeah. Oh, it's good. I don't. I've tried. Not just on this show, but just kind of going to Goose Ridge. They do seem to have a big variety of different wines to choose from.
Oh yeah.
So it does. I don't think it matters what your preference is. They've got something for everybody. Is Goose Ridge something that you've had before? Or is this new to you?
This is new to me.
Oh, good.
It's really good, though.
Right on.
Yeah.
Oh, great. We got to introduce our guest to something new.
Yeah.
I like it.
They've got a tasting room right here in Woodinville in the Hollywood district. Leavenworth. We tend to visit them when we go over to Leavenworth. And then I believe there's one in Walla Walla, and their mothership is in Richland. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is great. I love the colour. It does have, just for anybody that really cares about the viscosity and the legs, it does have a little bit of leg
A little
on the
bit.
back. Yeah.
A little bit.
So,
A little less than the one we had last week.
yeah, but still, it does have some. So it's not, but it's not that kind of, like I said, thick on the tongue. It does have this lightness. You're right, actually. It would make a good summer wine. Not a porch pounder, but it would be.
Oh, you said it
I did
first?
I
You
just
said
wanted
it
to
first.
make sure that we got it in because it's,
Straight away.
I just don't want it coming in at the end. Let's just move on.
Our listeners wait for it.
Sure they do. All right, well, we're going to continue to enjoy this lovely bottle of wine from Goose Ridge, but we're going to take a really quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk with Eliu all about home lending and how he got started, and kind of take us on a journey of...
What's going on right now?
Yeah, exactly. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after this very short break.
This podcast is brought to you by JB Family Growers.
Hey there, podcast listeners. Are you in the market for a new home or looking to sell your current property? Look no further than our friends at Tend Home Team. With over 20 years of experience in the industry, their team of experts are here to guide you every step of the way. What sets them apart? They're not just your average real estate company. They're deeply rooted in the community and have genuine passion for helping people find their dream home. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or a seasoned pro, they have the local knowledge and expertise to help you make the right decision. So why settle for anything less than the best? Choose the real estate company who will be your go-to choice for all your needs. Reach out to Tend Home Team today, and let's start the journey to finding your perfect home. Contact them at tendhometeam.com or 206-504-3660.
Welcome back to TLC, Tend Life Community Podcast. We're here with Eliu Lopez of Home Right Lending. And so we want the audience to get to know you a little bit, know the story behind your inspiration of Home Right Lending. And I'm reading here, you started as a real estate agent? You went to the dark side.
No, he started in the dark side.
I started in the dark side.
Well, yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yeah, so basically when I was in my early 20s, I decided to, always had an ambition to become a real estate agent.
Okay.
And I met my goal, became a real estate agent, and I'm going to age myself here a little bit.
That's
but,
okay.
That's all right.
We do it every week.
But back in that time, there was only one computer at the brokerage, and everything was done. Like if you want to go see houses, you go and get your Thomas guide, plan out your map.
Oh my gosh.
Remember?
Like the
I remember
elevators.
that. I remember that, yeah.
Yes. So, being pretty tech savvy even since the beginning, I got in the computer, found the houses, got my needs list from the clients, and very soon was able to find them the right house because I kind of eliminated a lot of that driving by just getting the right questions, finding the right houses, and then just sourcing and sorting those houses. The problem was is that I looked like I was 16 years old. I was looking for a picture, but I couldn't find one.
It's not a bad problem to have, because as you're older, people will be like, wow, you're young.
Yeah.
Genetics.
Yeah, I wish it was so during that time, but I think at that time there was so many real estate agents. I was in California at that time.
Okay.
And there was so many real estate agents that when I would find the houses, the clients loved the house, but the problem is that because they looked so young, they ended up going with somebody else.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah, so
That's not very nice.
No.
no,
Mm-mm.
no, it was kind of left a really bitter taste,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So I left the real estate industry, the dark side, and then, decided to come back to Washington and get a real job and
Okay.
Go to
A
school.
real job? Did he say that, Troy? He said
He
a
said
real
on-
job.
on air.
As I was told a lot, but very soon I realized I needed to make some money, so I answered a call, and just like everybody, I think, in the mortgage industry, they come into this by accident.
Mhm.
So I started working with a subprime company, and I was really more like an interpreter for these loan officers.
Oh, okay.
And helping them, close the loans because they needed somebody that spoke Spanish. Quickly realized, hey, I'm doing most of the work here, so I'm
bulb.
yeah, why am I still doing this? So and I became a mortgage broker at that time,
Mhm.
2006, late 2006, early 2007.
Oh, perfect timing.
Oh my gosh, yeah, couldn't time it better.
If those that don't remember, the real estate market crashed in end of 7, beginning of 8, 2008.
So to kind of carry on from there, can you share a moment when your simplified approach to loans? Because obviously you've transitioned from real estate, realized that there was kind of a niche for you in being able to help the Latino community, get into homes where maybe it had been a challenge for them prior to that. But before we kind of get into highlighting some of the common hurdles that community have when it comes to home lending, can you share with us a moment where you simplified your approach to loans and made a significant difference for a client, reinforcing your belief in the guiding families towards home ownership rather than processing a transaction?
Yeah. So I think really it came down to when I was, getting started in this industry in 2008. Things were pretty tough, and very soon after that trade happened. You guys know when trade happened. A lot of the new guidelines stressed out a lot of loan officers and underwriters and stuff. So some of the clients that were probably approved before weren't approved anymore. And I remember one client specifically that was turned down so many times that when I went to the signing table with him, he was shaking as he was signing.
Oh.
So I realized, what am I doing? So I started reevaluating my business. It's like, what am I doing differently? What can I do differently to avoid that? Because I don't feel like anybody signing loan documents at the end should be that nervous,
Yeah.
right? So I started realizing, okay, well, the communication on how the process works, the expectations, and then also the documentation. What is the meat and potatoes of the loan, right? So explaining that upfront, in the middle, and at the end, because people forget,
For sure.
Yep. It's a lot to
before.
take in.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, it's a lot of information.
Yes. So I decided, this was going to be my way of doing things. Is just going through what is the most important things to the borrower, which is what is my down payment, what is my closing costs, what's my rate, what type of program do I have, and if you can have that communication and constant, reinforcements throughout that process. When it comes down to signing at the end, they look at that and they understand this is the meat and potatoes. This is what really is going to define my future of this payment of a home loan. So once they do that, they can go through all the formalities of all the other forms that are need to be signed, right? But yeah, it made it a lot easier so people are not so nervous, because when you're signing 70 pages.
Well, and you look at the payment, the amount of money you actually spend over the life of the loan, you can get a little scared.
Oh yeah, because it's not just the price of the house.
No.
It's all that
It's like
pesky
three,
interest.
3 or 4 times the price of the house.
Yeah, exactly,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of, helping people get to that home ownership and making it feel less like a transaction, right? Because you're explaining it. But, you and I have kind of talked virtually, via email about, how you have this kind of commitment to the Latino community. Not to say that you don't work with other people, but I just want to focus on that for a moment, because I think sometimes that's a community that is often overlooked when it comes to home buying or being able to navigate through the process of home loans. So can you highlight some common hurdles that maybe some people in the Latino community might face, with that mortgage process, and how your tailored approach helps them overcome these challenges? So not just kind of the signing of the documents, but the whole process of getting from point A to point B in that transaction, and being able to buy a home.
Yeah, so the Latino community has a lot of hurdles, and it's just because of the culture, right? The culture is a little different on how, we do things. We're very trusting, and if somebody says, you're approved, they're like, oh yeah, I'm
Right.
approved, right? We are also, a lot in the community is very much like, take the easy way out. So if I say I need your documents, they might just send a screenshot of
Oh,
your
yeah,
phone,
yeah.
right?
Okay.
So in technology-wise, they're not the most advanced. So
Okay.
getting into online banking or their IRS transcripts, all that stuff
Mhm.
really becomes a big hurdle for them. So what I try to do with them is I use tools like Zoom.
Okay.
Zoom has this great tool that says share mouse control. So I get them on my screen, I give them, let's just say it's their bank statements, the symbol is a bank statement,
Yeah.
right? Go online, and then I give them mouse control so they can add in their username, password. Now I'm able to show them, this is where you go to get
Okay.
your bank
Wow.
statements. Very simple little things like that. Or maybe just explaining, because in the Latino community, most of the time, there's a lot of opportunities that happen. So, this job's gonna give me a $2 raise or a $1 raise, and they jump from job to job, right?
Right.
Well, when you talk to somebody and says, have you been working for the last 2 years? They say, yes, no problem, right? Oh, and they say, well, how long have you been in your job? Oh, I've been XYZ amount. But most of the time, they really have had multiple jobs. So I have
Okay.
to look at their W-2s, their taxes, very carefully, just to pin down that, making sure that we have the right amount for the right types of jobs. And then that work history, I created an Excel sheet that doesn't say, this is where you work. Just, I actually name it, put your employer, phone number, HR, and then I try to get everything up front. Because the problem really happens is that most of the time, people take an application as a loan officer, right? They'll take an application and they'll say, oh, this is great. Take your application and it's good, and they pass it through. But the problem is that application then goes to processing, underwriting, and now you're a reactive loan officer.
Right.
You're always fighting back because there's so many things that the underwriter's gonna dig into.
Right.
At that point in time, it becomes a problem. So I try to really eliminate that by looking at that upfront for them, especially in the Latino community, because there's always little issues.
Yeah.
It seems like there's gaps with any loan, but yeah, I certainly appreciate that on the real estate agent side when a loan officer's gone to that length of detail and lets me know that they have, because that means that my buyer's going to be more well qualified.
Yes, when I
Going
talk
through all the documentation up front.
No, it's very interesting. I like to talk to listing agents when they get an offer.
Yeah,
I always call them up, and
I
I just
appreciate that.
thanks. Yeah, it's just more reassuring for them to say, hey, this person didn't just get an application. I want to make sure that they
Right.
understand the whole aspect of what I've done, and usually we get the loan because of that.
Right.
So
Well, the thing is, buying a house for anybody is an emotional transaction, right? So it's an emotional process. You find the house that you want, or you put your documentation in for the loan. So if the real estate agent and the lender can talk and make that more seamless and easy for the buyer, regardless of what they're, whether they're Latino or they're some, other demographic. I think just having that kind of connection and making sure that for the buyer it's as easy as possible. Right, and also then helps the seller too, right? Because it leads into a smoother transaction.
Well,
for
you're
them too.
representing your client way better than someone else who's just taken an online application and
Yeah,
then pushed it off to their processor to clean up the details.
yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you do, you know, obviously you're on the Zoom calls with them, so your commitment to educating clients is great. I mean, it sounds as though for sure you go kind of that step above where most people would be, not to say that other lenders don't, but you know, you understand the need of the clients that you're working with, and that you'll figure out a way to get them to understand or get the documentation that they need to have a successful home purchase, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how does, you know, the principal, how does this principle guide your interactions, involvement with the community, and do you have a specific story that encapsulates the rewarding outcomes of this approach for both you and the clients? You know, kind of a story where it might have been, didn't look likely, but you've managed to get them into their dream home.
Superhero.
Yeah, exactly. Show us your cape is basically what I'm asking.
Awesome. No, yeah. Let's see. So I love when I meet with a client, whether it be on phone or Zoom or in person. Sometimes if somebody seems nervous,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go and meet with them in person, because I try to tell them, like, I'm not here to take an application.
Mm-hmm.
Application anybody can take, but I want to know your story. I want to know why you want to buy a house and what exactly is it that you want to accomplish, because sometimes, you know, people just don't, they have an idea in their
Mhm.
head, but they really don't know what they want, right?
Right.
They don't know the payments. They might think, oh, I want to buy a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house,
Mm-hmm.
but they're living in a 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartment, right?
Right.
So understanding, excuse me, understanding the process of, you know, where they should be, what they should be looking at, and how they should look at purchasing a house. It's not like, oh, I'm going to rent.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually going to invest,
Yeah.
and investing in something that's going to give you equity that will be a stepping stone
Mhm.
for the future. So I always tell people, I'm not gonna just tell you. I'm
Mhm.
gonna show you.
Okay.
So when I get into Zoom or in person, I like to go through the programs in itself. I like to go through their understandings of what they think, because sometimes they're like
Yeah.
so nervous. They're thinking, oh my gosh, well, we're in this market where we might see 2008 all over again. You know,
Mhm.
the houses are gonna go down. I'm just waiting for the houses to go down to 200,000.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot. Hasn't happened yet.
Yes. So I just like to go through, like, you know, really reviewing,
Mhm.
educating them, showing them, okay, historical data,
Yeah.
where are we at, what is the difference, what was different back then
Mm-hmm.
when we didn't have any regulations
Right.
to where we're at now, right? Where
It's
we have.
so different now. There's way more options
Yeah.
Mhm.
than a fire sale.
Well, I feel like that the consumer that's taking those loans out is in safer hands now than they maybe were in 2007. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I just mean that there's so many more guidelines in place to protect these people that are
Yes,
buying homes.
yeah, no, you're 100%.
Wow, sounds like you really do guide them well through the process and don't just not, okay, here's your loan docs and away you go. I appreciate that. I think it's scary buying a house if you've never done it. Well, even if you have done it before,
Yeah.
even if you're going from like your first home to the next one, it's a
Been
big
several years since you've done that, likely.
it's a
So,
big deal,
yeah.
and things change and kind of just being. You won't remember the whole process, or what you know, what's needed for those.
You remember
loans.
some of the pain spots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Home lending, I don't envy your job, because it can be kind of dry and painful getting all those documents from people, and then the underwriter comes back and says they want the dog's information as well, right? I mean,
want blood
blood,
type.
yeah,
out of a stone.
they're
Everything.
firstborn. But I mean, I'm being facetious, but sometimes it seems like they're just asking for ridiculous documentation, and
Mhm.
it gets a little stressful and overwhelming for people. So.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're kind of the buffer point between the real estate agent and the person wanting to buy the house. Yeah, that doesn't sound like a good spot to be in some days.
It doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't even. With real estate agents, I try to coach my real estate agents
Mm-hmm.
that I'm not going to be the fastest person to pre-approve somebody,
Okay.
but I'm going to do it right.
Yeah.
Because it's going to take some time. You know, like I said, they ask for everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I tend to put myself in that perspective and
Mhm.
ask for everything in the beginning, because I want to be able to just coast
Yeah.
first.
So I would say then anybody that is looking to, you know, buy a property, whether it's their first one or not, the first step is always talk to a lender. Get all your ducks in a row
Yeah.
first before you even look at a house, because there can be probably nothing more kind of soul destroying, if you like, if you've gone out and you found that perfect house and then you find that you don't qualify for quite as much, or you've got to jump through those extra hoops and then you miss out on that property. Rather, don't look until you've got your lending in place, and then you can really jump in with all both feet and get excited about it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think people should meet with a lender way before they meet with a real estate agent, or they just meet with a really good real estate agent that explains the process and then puts them in touch with
With a really good lender.
With a really good lender,
Yeah.
yeah. Because that's really the next step. It's not looking at houses. I mean, even though that's kind of the sexy thing to do.
Yeah, that's what everyone gets excited about.
Yeah,
is the house.
for sure.
No one's excited about paperwork. Sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh no, I know, but it is. I find it to be like, okay, without the minutia of the paperwork and having that detail tool, or to detail eye, things can go terribly wrong really fast.
Yeah.
So it's actually funny that you mentioned about, the first step is to talk to a lender. Yes. And you said talk to a really good real estate agent. You have to talk to a really good lender as well. Actually, I just had a client recently. They were pre-approved with another lender. I don't know who it was, but it's what I call a pre-qualify.
Right.
Where they just get their credit, tell you, how much do you make? Oh, you make XYZ. Okay, here, you're pre-approved for XYZ, but you're not. That person was pre-approved for a lot more. When I got their documents, I had to give them the bad news.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're only approved for 700 instead of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you make a good point there, and I think maybe we should touch on that just for a second before we jump into a few more specifics about lending. But pre-qualified versus pre-approved is a big difference, right? You want to kind of touch on that just a little bit? Either of you?
From my perspective, pre-qualification is basically they've just asked them questions on the phone and said, yeah, that based on that information, you're pre-qualified. Pre-approved is you've gotten a little more documentation from them, right? And what I like to hear is that it's gone through the desktop underwriting and it's come out okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love desktop underwriting. Unfortunately, sometimes some lenders, depending on the case, might take forever or they might not accept it, right?
Right.
So having somebody that can pre-underwrite the file, right? They've had some experiences going through all that documentation with the fine comb, they can really, really help the process. But I love what we call TBD underwriting, right? So
TBD, what's that mean? That's a song in my head.
So it's a property that's to be determined, but the
It's a
underwriting.
Velvet DeVoe song. Sorry.
Sorry.
Ooh, I like Velvet DeVoe.
So the property hasn't been identified yet, but the qualifications have been underwritten.
That's correct.
Yeah, awesome.
That's good. That's good. I just wanted anybody that's listening that doesn't understand, okay, you can be pre-qualified, but it doesn't mean you're going to get the house that you want. So just take all of those extra steps, and then that way you'll be less disappointed if things don't work out. We hope they work out for everybody, but just if you can get, like we said before, the ducks in a row, then you're likely to be more successful.
The worst thing for me is either representing a buyer or seller and then having a buyer go in contract and then not be able to execute. That's kind of a black eye on both sides of the coin there.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so now that we've got to know a little bit more about you and kind of what drives you, let's talk about some specific lending topics and tips, because we're going to kind of merge our real estate roundup bit in with this too, so I expect you both to jump in with this.
Oh my gosh.
I'm very demanding today. All right, so what are the advantages and disadvantages of down payment assistance in the current market, comparing grants and second loans for down payment assistance? So I know there's a couple of questions in there, so you guys can break it down and kind of tell me what you think, what you really, really think.
Awesome. So
Yeah,
personally,
you go first.
sorry.
No, you
No,
absolutely
no.
go first. We want to hear from you first.
Awesome. So I am always a proponent for down payment assistance for the right person.
Okay.
It doesn't mean that everybody should have that, because they need to be really educated on why they're getting the down payment assistance, right?
Well, I guess, sorry to interrupt, but let's take it a step back. If somebody doesn't understand what down payment assistance is, let's pretend I don't. What does that mean?
So it means that the state, government, or lender is going to give you funds so you can basically cover your minimum contribution, which is your down payment.
Okay.
And sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 3.5%, but it basically covers your down payment.
Okay.
Doesn't mean you're zero out of pocket though.
It does not.
Yeah.
Okay, see, this is where we need the
Yeah.
clarification points, is
Yeah.
why I ask these questions.
Yes. So down payment is one part, and then the other part is your closing costs, right?
Okay,
So what the state will give you is for the down payment, and sometimes people in this market actually are very prepared for some types of funds, so they have some money, right?
Mhm.
But what happens is that a lot of people think, oh, I'm a first-time buyer, and as a first-time buyer, I should have this right, which is down payment assistance. I want to have that free money, right?
Mhm.
But nothing is free. I was saying, nothing's free,
Yeah.
right? There's no such thing as a free lunch.
Unfortunately.
So I try to explain borrowers that what happens with a down payment assistance is that you're basically taking out a second loan in most cases, or you're getting some type of restrictions that you cannot, refinance or sell the house within a certain amount of time.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, different programs have different restrictions on them.
Okay,
Mhm.
so are there any advantages to doing that in this market then?
It helps you if you're really that person that maybe just have the funds to be able to, pay for that closing cost,
Mhm.
but really don't have all the funds to be able to, compete, because it's still a very competitive market.
Mhm.
Would you agree?
The inventory levels are still low, yeah.
Yeah.
We're hoping to see more inventory come on as
Mhm.
as the new year progresses here.
So that's the advantage of it. What's the disadvantage in this particular market?
In this particular market, with the rates right now for down payment assistance being around, mid to high sevens,
Mhm.
sometimes even in the 8, if the rates go down, which they're already starting to, right now I think the rates for an FHA 30-year is around 5.8,
Mhm.
If you're getting a rate in the high sevens and the rates go down to the 5s, and you're saying, hey,
I want to
alright, I
refinance.
wanna refinance.
You can't.
But you've got a deed restriction on it, right?
Exactly, because you have 2 loans, so that would make it a cash out refinance, and therefore you have to have 80% LTV. So 80% of the loan to
Mhm.
value of the house, which you can't. You have to wait a few years until the equity of the house rises, and then you can refinance. But meantime, you're paying a high mortgage payment
Right,
when others are paying less.
okay.
And sometimes the people that I've talked to in the past is like, I wish somebody would have told me this, because I
I was
had the
just
money.
going to say, it sounds like you're a good person to have in the back pocket, because you're explaining it in terms of like, okay, well, it sounds great, sounds like free money, and it's not.
No, there's restrictions on it. Anytime you get something
Yeah.
for free, there's always some sort of restriction, right?
Yeah. So from your perspective then, Troy, as the real estate person, is there any advantages or disadvantages for the buyers, when they're coming to look at a house? Is there, if they're having to do kind of these down payment assistance programs, does it hinder their ability to buy
Well,
a house?
I'd say you'd have to have a little more of a long-term mentality
Okay.
approach to it. But I always ask people that are thinking about getting in the market or hesitant about getting in the market right now. Rates are high. I can't get in the market.
Mhm.
I'm like, well, look back. Just think 10 years ago. How many of the houses would have you bought 10 years ago? And the answer is, for me, it's all of them. 10 years ago, I would have bought all the houses that were on the market if I could.
If you had a crystal ball and you knew what was going to
Yeah,
happen.
yeah. And so, I mean, real estate really is a long-term play. It's not a short-term cash machine, or, you've got to have a place to live. So you're paying a mortgage no matter what. It's just sometimes you're paying someone else's mortgage instead of your own. So
Okay.
that's my perspective, anyway.
Very, very clear. I think I completely agree with that. I think like I said is, I like how you put it. You're either paying your somebody else's mortgage,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, you pay rent. And
Yeah.
that's,
It's somebody else's
that goes
mortgage,
towards
yeah.
someone else's mortgage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And sometimes you have to have that conversation with borrowers where like, okay, how much have you paid? How much is your rent? How much have you paid in the last 5 years, 3
Right.
years, 2 years?
Mhm.
You look at that math, and you're like, wow, I paid that much more money.
And how much equity did that property gain over
Yeah.
that 3 to
Mhm.
5
You
years?
didn't gain it as a renter,
No.
but somebody did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. All right. So you mentioned a term there, and I wanted to check in on that one next. So we hear this term first-time home buyer, and obviously there are programs for that. And the assumption can be made that anyone who is looking for their first property qualifies under this. But who actually qualifies as a first-time home buyer?
So in simple terms, if you haven't owned a house under your name in the last 3 years, you're considered a first-time home buyer.
So you could have bought a house, thought you were going to move, sell it. 3 years later, you still haven't bought another house. You're now technically a first-time home buyer again.
That is correct.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. Did you, Troy?
Not directly, no. I mean, indirectly. I didn't know. You know, first-time home buyers thrown out quite a bit, and it's you know, I don't know if there's really any. Are there any real specific first-time home buyer loan programs?
You know, there are.
Okay.
There are some very specific, obviously
I mean,
FHA.
you have to be a first-time home buyer to get this program.
So,
That's what I mean.
Home Ready, Home Possible are
Okay.
really required that somebody has to be, one of them applying has to be a first-time home buyer.
Okay.
And because of that, actually, they do have some special perks.
Okay. I know you can pull money out of your IRA or your 401ks and up to a certain amount if you're using it towards the down payment of your first house, and you have less tax implications that way.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yes, definitely. And a lot of
but
people
this
don't know
isn't
that.
tax advice.
No.
But I am not a tax
Disclaimer.
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 We're not tax
We're not.
professionals.
Yes, you have to speak to your actual tax professional.
Yeah.
We're just pointing you in a direction.
Yeah.
Is really what we're doing. Okay. Interesting then that first-time home buyer doesn't mean you've never bought a house before. That's
Yeah, I think people probably don't know that. So
No.
if you bought a house 10 years ago and sold it 10 years ago and we're out traveling the world or whatever, and then you want to buy a house now, you're still a first-time home buyer.
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great.
A nugget that we didn't know, or
Yeah.
the audience didn't know.
I see it
didn't
on the
know.
applications when people apply, they're like, they put in, oh, I bought a house. But have you bought a house in the last few years? Oh, no. So
Yeah.
I changed that.
So you have to be mortgage free. So let's clarify. You can't say you're a first time home buyer if you're still holding on to a house that you bought 10 years ago.
That's
You
right.
have to be mortgage free for 3 years.
3 years.
Okay, perfect. I
Mhm.
just wanted to clarify.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So
All the more reason to talk to a professional because there's caveats to everything,
there's
right?
caveats and everything. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. You just like I say, you're going to sit down with them and you're going to give each one of your potential clients this information on how to best navigate their journey through the home buying process. So, but this is always a fun one. So, tip of the week: if you have applied for a loan and suddenly you are being bombarded with telemarketing calls, because we all love that, how do you opt out of those calls after applying for a loan?
So first, you want to do it before you apply for a loan.
Okay, how do you
Okay.
opt out before?
So there's a phone number and there's a website you can go to.
Mhm.
Okay. So the website is donotcall.gov.
Mhm.
So you want to make sure you type that in, donotcall.gov. And then the phone number is 1-888-5-OPT-OUT. So 1-888-5-OPT-OUT or 888-382-1222.
That's your PSA for the
There
day.
you go. Yeah. And you do
PSA,
that.
what's that?
Personal service announcement.
Oh,
There you go.
there you go.
Yeah, you want to do that like
Purchase and sale agreement.
There's
Yeah,
so many
PSA
different ones
has-
for it.
You're like, what?
That's the one I like.
Yeah, there's that one.
Yeah.
Yep. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say you want to do that like 5 days or before, obviously, but it takes 5 days for it to actually kick in.
Okay.
And yes, you want to do that before because unfortunately, the trigger leads right now are so bad. When somebody puts in a loan application, they get. I've had one client get 20 calls in 5 minutes.
Wow.
So and I was right there. So,
That's pretty scary.
yes.
Really.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you can't really answer this question, but I'm going to put it out there anyway. I'm assuming that this number could be used for anybody applying for any kind of loan. So even if you were going to go purchase a car, I mean, because the same principle could happen there, right? If you're taking out a loan on a car, I mean, I know we're not talking about cars, but, you can opt out of anything, right?
I'm on both of those. I still get calls.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Don't poo-poo it.
Sorry. I mean, no, I'm not poo-pooing it. The calls are probably less. I don't get 20 in 5 minutes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, it's worthwhile doing. So,
Yeah.
okay, so you've opted out, and then you go through the loan process. Are people then going to still try and do some kind of telemarketing for you, or not for you, but to try and kind of guide people into other things? Or is that going to be enough?
This is very good. I do a little something different, so I work with different investors, and some investors allow me to do a soft pull,
Oh.
and they actually underwrite the file and go through almost all the 99% of the process with the soft pull. That does not get sold, and therefore you don't get targeted so
Mhm.
much.
Right.
At the end, the underwriter actually pulls the full tri-merge, and at that point in time, by that time, I've already done this one. So that's taken care of,
Right.
for my clients, and
Mhm.
so I try to avoid that.
These are all good tips because there's nothing worse than, thinking you're going to do one thing and then get bombarded with something else, right?
Yeah,
Just distracts from what you really want to do, which is buy a house.
yeah. I get
Mhm.
telemarketing texts all the time now too.
Oh, you do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The joys of technology.
I
It's
know.
great, but it's awful. We love it and we hate it.
Yes.
These texts are easier to ignore.
Oh, this is true. They're not
Yeah.
buzzing in your ear. That's for sure. All right. Well, that's our tips and topics.
Yeah, so switching gears a little bit and taking us out of the real estate environment, we always like to ask our guests what are some of their favorite gems in the local area where you like to visit and things you like to do, and
Share it with our audience.
share it with our audience, and maybe they learn something new.
Yeah. We're all about
Hopefully they do.
Spreading the joy. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I really enjoy a little restaurant here. It's called Twisted Cuban Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
In Woodinville. Yes.
We know the owner.
Yeah.
We used to be neighbors.
Yes, we
both Pam
did.
and I used to be neighbors with the owner.
Yeah. So Twisted Cuban Cafe.
You
All
can
right.
say it. You can say it.
I know it's a bit of a tongue twister.
Tongue twister,
Yeah.
twisted.
Tell us more about it for those people that don't know anything about the Cuban Cafe.
So, the Cuban Cafe is really small, very, interesting kind of a cafe. They have a cigarette bar there, with real Cuban cigars and stuff. So, you can become a member if you're a smoker. I'm not, but definitely attracted to that. Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
it's a nice kind of idea, right?
Yeah.
Who was I talking with? I was talking with someone the other day. They were hoping to find a cigar bar around here. So
Oh,
I
I
didn't
know.
know that he did that.
Yeah, he does. He has a
Okay.
whole collection of them.
Really?
Yeah.
Mhm.
You have a whole membership.
Yeah, I know you have to be a member to smoke inside.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so it's really, really nice. I enjoyed their actual, since this is a wine type of podcast, right? They have a wine drink called Juana Mama, or Mama Juana, I'm sorry, Mama Juana.
Mama Juana.
really, Mama Juana.
Mama,
Yeah.
it sounds interesting. Okay, tell us more about Mama Juana.
It's a very, I think it tastes more like a warm brandy, you know?
Okay.
So it's a warm drink, it's nice for the cold weather.
Okay.
It has red wine,
Mm-hmm.
it has some rum, orange and cinnamon and other spices in there as well. I mean, it's really hard to describe. but
Sounds
the
very
taste
Cuban.
is so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Now
Tastes so
they're
good.
making that at the cafe.
That is
Yeah.
correct. Yes, they make it
Cool.
at the cafe.
What are we still doing here?
I don't know. We're talking about taking the show on the road.
I take the
so
show on
let's
the
do
road
it.
to the Twisted Cuban Cafe. Okay, so did you sample any of the food at the cafe?
I did. I
Okay, what was your
love-
favorite?
Well, personally, I had the bistec last time I was there, and it's like a steak, rice, beans, and
Okay.
maduro, which is like a sweet plantain
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
that goes. So I'm originally from Nicaragua, so Cuban food and Nicaraguan food is very similar.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. So
I haven't been in a while. Did he still have the yucca fries?
yuca, yes.
Yucca fries, yeah.
Yucca.
Yucca, sorry, yucca fries. I'm being very British, yucca. Yeah, their food is great. So nobody's mentioned the Twisted Cuban Cafe
No.
on the show before. So I like that you've brought that to our listeners' attention.
They're
And
just in the West Valley of Woodinville there, just across the bridge.
yeah, it's I think it definitely is a gem, having something a little bit different from the norm there. Food wise, I know the owners there take great pride in everything that they serve, and just kind of it's where it started and where it is now. It's very kind of welcoming when you go in there, for sure. My kids used to there was a grilled cheese and bacon sandwich that they used to make. I don't know if it's still on the menu, but my kids would ask for it every time we went in there.
That's what my
I
son
like a
just
good
had.
Cuban sandwich.
A Cuban sandwich.
Yeah, Cubano, what are they called? Yeah,
Mhm.
Cubano.
Cubanos.
Mhm.
Cubanos.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, now I'm hungry.
He's got the roll of the tongue.
I know, I don't. So the Twisted Cuban Cafe.
Cafe.
Is there anywhere else in this kind of? It doesn't have to just be Woodinville. Anywhere else that you kind of enjoy?
I really enjoy Casa Mojito. It's in Lake City.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, it actually was on Evening Magazine just recently. They
really?
do a lot for the community.
Mhm.
Okay.
The owner is named Liam. He is really, really a big advocate to helping the community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very good. It's a fusion. So they have Cuban, they have Peruvian, they have
Oh.
different other countries,
So
national dishes.
Sounds
Okay.
like they might have mojitos too.
I know.
They-
Yeah.
So it's called Casa Mojito?
Casa
Casa mojito.
mojito, huh?
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. I might have to go there. Wonderful. Okay.
Food, making me hungry.
I know. Well, you've got a lovely glass of wine. You can continue
Wine
to
is
sit.
food.
Yeah, you can. It's grapes. It's
Yeah.
fruit.
Yeah.
Continue to sip that while you think about food, real food. Yeah. All right. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. As always, we truly appreciate you coming in and telling us
Yes,
more about
thanks,
your
Eliu.
lending process and how you help your clients attain their dream homes. So, if somebody would like to get hold of you and talk to you about their next steps, where would they find you?
They can go to homerighlending.com.
Okay.
That's
And-
homerighlending.com.
Yes, HOMERIGHT lending.com. Good,
Mhm.
right?
Cool.
Is there a telephone number that you would like to share with the audience just in case they don't want to go online?
Sure. They can call 206-453-6155.
Perfect. And then Troy, they've got their home loan sorted. They're not pre-qualified. They're qualified buyers.
Yes.
And they want to get started. How would they find you?
tendhometeam.com. So that's TEND, hometeam.com, or 206-504-3660. Call or text.
Okay, perfect. So that's our show for this week. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy the show, you can find it on all the major podcast platforms. While you're
Yes,
listening to
please.
it, you've already found it. But please like, subscribe, and share. And if you're watching on YouTube, what do they need to do, Troy?
Ding the dinger.
There we go. All
And
right.
We already said porch pounder.
Yes, I beat you to the punch at the beginning of the show.
Okay. I was looking forward to seeing that.
All right, well, next time I make sure I don't say it and we do it at the end. It's become this whole bit.
Yeah. It's like, where's Waldo?
Where's Waldo? Exactly.
You got to find the porch pounder in
Yeah.
this show.
Okay. All right, well, thanks
Thanks,
very
everybody.
much. And see you
you.
next time. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Did you know JB Instant Lawn is more than just sod? We planted seeds of development and now offer a new experience. JB Family Growers is home to the Lavender Farm and Flower Market and the Pumpkin Farm and Puzzle Patch. Acres of beauty to enjoy through your summer and fall. Come check us out right next to Chateau Ste. Michelle at 14063 Northeast 145th Street in Woodinville. We look forward to seeing you there.